Look at that. We almost had it. Come on, man. I get like a 7 out of 10. You know what I mean? It was so damn close. I'll take a 7 out of 10 on that.
Heck yeah, baby. We'll take it. We'll take
That's
it.
Right.
For sure.
That's right. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages.
That would be Captain Mark Wages. But we'll let it slide because he's been off doing other things and he's busy. So those slips happen. How are you, my brother?
I am doing good, man. How about you?
Fantastic. So we were talking before we went live, everybody, and Mark is a dad, and he is absolutely enjoying everything that goes along with that, and it's so damn cool, man. You take for granted all of the great things that happen when you stop getting high. You know what I mean? Like the little things, like going and seeing your child perform in things, just become the biggest things in the world, and they're just epic. Even if it requires you walking for 404 days, camping outside, right, and only using a porta potty for a 36-hour period of time in order to watch that, well worth it.
And you're right. I think that's the sacrifice a lot of us make. Any of us that really, I don't want to say people, their parents don't care if they don't do things like that, but the priorities are different for people, I guess.
Well, and they change up pretty good when you get sober. I remember I remember them taking on a whole new meaning for me once. Like I remember when I had an opportunity to go to my daughter's graduation. And admittedly, I had been waiting on that one for a really long time. But when that one started to finally come around, it was like, man, that was Christmas and the Grateful Dead concert all rolled into one. Like I was so ready to go to this thing. My palms were sweating. And of course, at that time, I still needed permission to go and do anything. And I remember being stressed out that somehow I might not get the permission to go. And yeah, it was a whole thing.
Around for that.
Yeah, it was a whole thing.
Yeah, but you do what you need to do, and I think that's really the point as a parent. We always don't necessarily do the things that make us comfortable. We just do what's right.
Yeah.
And that's, it's what it is, but it plays right into the addiction. It really does.
Yep.
It affects you in different levels and different spots.
So you'll get a kick out of this. So today is the 2nd, right? So the lifeboat went live 2 years and like 2 days ago, 2 years and a day ago. And I was going back through some journaling and some stuff that I wrote down in the very beginning of the lifeboat. I think this is kind of a hoot. I didn't make these up. This is what was listed as the 5 biggest problems facing our country in terms of drugs when the lifeboat started. How's that, huh?
Yeah.
And number 1 was illicit opioids, such as fentanyl, leading to a surge in overdose deaths. Boy, they nailed that one. Number 2, synthetic drugs like the synthetic cannabinoids and cathinones causing health risks and challenges for law enforcement due to constantly evolving formulations. This is the stuff that people are freaking out on and biting each other's faces in videos. And boy, it really made for some frightening times in this country.
Yep.
3, cocaine trafficking and abuse as it remains a significant global problem.
Yes.
That one is, I think, is always going to be a problem. I think these days the problem is probably the fact that the blow isn't real.
I think it's underrated too. I really do.
You mean the reach of it?
Yes.
I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I think a ton of people do coke, and I think that there's probably, if you took 100% of the people who are doing coke, there's probably 30 or 40% of those who are doing stuff that's made in China that does exactly the same thing in the body, but far more volatile, far more dangerous to the brain. And like the pink cocaine, air quotes, that people are always talking about these days. Like there's so little cocaine in that at all. Maybe enough just to give you the sense of smell, but there's nothing in there. It's all garbage.
Right.
Number 4, methamphetamine production and distribution contributing to addiction and criminal activities. You know what's funny about this one, Mark, is I've seen a shift in meth in the U.S. and it seems to me like there's a lot less of it being made because the stuff that's coming across the border is coming across at a really, really good quality, and it's so damn cheap.
Yeah.
Before I left Reno, there were people there, like I told you about the girl that was a prostitute that I was able to sit and talk with, gave her a little cash and talk to her for half an hour and ask her a bunch of questions and this and that. But she said that she could pick up an ounce of meth in that town for $260. Now I remember a day in that town when an ounce of meth was $1,800. You know what I mean? And I said, is it garbage? She said, no, it's rocket fuel. He said, it is just, I said, are people making it? She said, no, you can't. You literally can't make the stuff for what it's costing these people to buy it. So there's kind of been a shift in that. Once again, it's just a great opportunity to throw in something to make that substance a hell of a lot more addictive. And there's fent and nits now, nitazines and xylazine are
on a thing. They're putting a lot of trank in everything too.
It's true, man. Yeah, that xylazine, that tranquilizer is ending up in all kinds of things and being sold and misrepresented as all kinds of things. I guess there was an event that happened recently for behind a graduation of some kind, and it was 4 students who thought they bought ketamine, and what they had done is straight xylazine. Amazingly, these people were actually saved. There is a substance that you can use if you know that the party is on something like a benzo. There is to benzo, a type of an antidote, very similar to what Narcan does to opiates. Someone will probably pop it up in the comment section. The name of it is escaping me right now, but
really,
if you know what the person is ODing on, and you know it's a benzo, there is an antidote that you can give them. The problem is that more often than not, they're out in the field, and it's not something that what you're dealing with. And the go-to is usually that they're on an opiate. I think that's probably going to have to change with all that xylazine crap.
Right.
And then number 5, designer drug and novel psychoactive substances, which are constantly emerging and challenging regulatory efforts. This is the stuff that they're talking about that are being sold in gas stations. This is the stuff that's being sold online that mimics. It's like the analog thing that was going on for so long. Now, now the analog wars are over because the U.S. has passed analog laws across the country that say if you get caught with an analog of a drug that is a controlled substance, it's just like being caught with the controlled substance. The fact that it took a decade for someone to go, hey, I got a good idea. If it's an analog of fentanyl, maybe we should just make that against the law too. If it's an analog of this, because for the longest time, people were getting busted. I've told the story before on here, but years ago, I bought some MDMA. I lived in Houston, Texas at the time, and they had made it illegal. But I got pulled over and I got caught. I got caught red-handed with a bag of it, and the bag was like this big. And I'm sitting in there thinking, that it's the end of the world and that I'm probably going to go to prison forever. And I called an attorney that was somebody that everybody knew, and he was really, really good at drug cases and this and that. And he said, what did you tell him? I said, I told him I wanted to make a phone call. He said, so you did nothing? I said, nothing. He goes, all right, I'll see you in court tomorrow. So he comes into court and he puts his arm around me, right? And he goes, this is over. You got nothing to worry about. And I said, well, I really want to believe you. He's like, no, they're dropping all the charges right now. This is over. You have nothing to worry about. And I'm sitting there like trying to figure out how the hell this is possible, right? And I'm babbling, Mark. I'm doing the so the next thing you know, I'm signing a piece of paper and we're gone. So I get brought back down into the jail because it takes about 4 or 5 hours for them to process you out anyway. And even after they drop the charges, it's not like you just walk out of court. So
right.
I had to go back down to the county jail and go. And I pulled out the piece of paper and I unfolded it. Written in the top, it said "not dope." So when I left the county jail, there were 2 pills missing, which they apparently must have either used to test or whatever. But they gave me back the drugs, and it's not like this stuff was a dietary supplement. You know what I mean? Like this stuff went bang. And I remember when the guy puts it up on the counter with my keys and all that, I went, "That's not mine." You know what I mean? Like my first go-to was, the hell's that big bag of pills doing up there? I'm like, that's not mine. And he's like, well, it's in your property. I go, yeah, no, that's not mine. And he's like, well, then you want me to throw it out? And I was like, no, I'll throw it out, right here.
Yeah.
Shoved that down my pants and ran out of Memorial in Houston. Yes, scared to hell. But that was one of those situations where, the other 990, whatever, I sold those. No one was upset with it. But it wasn't the drug according to Hoyle. It wasn't, methyldoxymethamphetamine.
It's
So
like an analog. It's like
right, it's exactly what it was. They just changed a couple of chemicals to make the to make the stuff fly. But I think it's fascinating to go back and look at this list, because now, if you were to look up and see what the CDC is talking about today, xylazine is really big, and I think one of the things, Mark, that they probably wouldn't mention but should be on the list is the shortage of prescription medication at pharmacies.
Yes.
If this is news to anybody here, right? If you've not heard anybody talk about this, then you probably don't go to pharmacies, because this is something that is right now so in your face. We have a bunch of people on the lifeboat whose lives have been affected by it already.
Yep.
The thing I did last weekend, that was money. That had nothing to do with. Although, to be honest, I guess in a way you could say it did, because they didn't have a name brand version in the store, and that in and of itself is kind of unheard of. You know what I mean?
Right.
The fact that they have to make a phone call to get a name brand version, and the fact also remains that had I gone with the generic, Mark, there was one box of it in the entire pharmacy. Like, they had to order that to have it, and they've asked me to give them a 6-day lead time.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Really?
6-day lead time. So I just said to him, look, man, 30 days from today, we're gonna do this again. So maybe you should start trying to work on it now. So
here at my pharmacy, I get Suboxone also. I get a 2-week script, and there for a while they were just filling it. I didn't even have to call them. Right. Now they will not fill it unless you call them and tell them, hey, I want this medication. And of course, they know me, so I don't really get ran through the ringer there. But I've seen newer patients on that really get ran through it. But a lot of it's not the pharmacist. It really truly is the shortage of what's going on. Right. And it makes you wonder if it ain't intentional at some level. It's like they're trying to get this down to a certain level and just leave it there.
It's really interesting, because it seems to be nationwide. And as you're probably well aware, we just had 2 facilities at Pfizer that got jacked up. And when I talked about this on the boat the first time, I got a couple of emails from people that said, those facilities make stuff for hospitals. And I did say that technically. I think when I brought this up, that is exactly what they do. But it's like a domino effect. And when Pfizer is now going to have to ramp up production for all of the stuff that they would dispense in hospitals, that production has to come from somewhere. And since the production facilities are one of them is now completely destroyed, that those production facilities that are going to take up the slack are going to be things that normally make medication for pharmacies. And so this will have a domino effect to everything, even if it's not prescriptions that you get, it's going to affect everything. And it's frightening times, people. You should start trying to stock up. Mark, fortunately right now, I am taking such a small amount of Suboxone that I can't see it without glasses on. Like, I'm not even being funny. I've cut it down. Yeah, I've cut it down to that small. And this is odd. If we have any Suboxone people on here, they can weigh in on this if they'd like. But I swear to you, when I get down to where I'm taking, say, a 0.5 milligram, right? Maybe even a little bit less than a 0.5 milligram. Yeah. I feel a euphoric effect on it sometimes. I don't feel that at higher doses at all. And it's really odd, because I remember when I first got prescribed this, I was in the halfway house, and they were not all that fired up about having me on Suboxone in the halfway house, since that was probably the most abused drug in the halfway house, right? So they just figured, I'm looking to become a supplier or whatever. So when I went in the first time, the woman hands me 2 strips, and she's like, you got to put this under your tongue, and you have to wait here for 10 minutes until you leave. I go, I'm not taking both of those. I'm like, I haven't done this stuff, and like, I'm opiate free for 8 years. I'm going to get, 7 years. I'm going to get sick if I take all of this.
Yeah.
It was actually, I was at the 6-year mark, and they gave me 2 strips. I put 16 milligrams under my tongue.
Wow.
And, I'm telling you, it was devastating. I called the doctor, and I'm like, I can't keep doing this. You know what I mean? And she goes, it's only going to take a couple of more days. I said, can you just rewrite this thing for 1 strip? Could we do that? And she said, well, no, once it's written, she's like, I can adjust it at the end of the week. I'm like, what the hell is that going to do for me today? You know what I mean? And
well, at that point, a week into it, and you're going to be starting to fight an addiction again.
Well, do you know what's really funny is that the buzz was about 3 days. That was it. At the end of day 3, it was over. But by way of full disclosure, those first 3 days, forget about it. Like I was the kind of worthless that was just,
Yeah.
and everybody knew what was up. I mean, my counselor knew, they all knew I was sober going into it and everything else. And I remember my counselor coming up and saying to me, she goes, you have the 4 o'clock shift? And I went, huh? And she's like, you're supposed to be vacuuming all of the stuff downstairs, right? It's the 4 o'clock shift. And I go, well, I'll do it at 4. And she's like, it's 6:15. So I put one foot on the floor. I put one foot on the floor off the bed, and I started to sort of teeter up. And she looked at me and she's like, that's all right. I'll get someone to do it. Why don't you just lay back down? I said, thank you very much. Apparently I missed dinner. I just sort of, go ahead.
I wonder if it has something,
stuff, honestly.
If it's something similar to like, well, first off, I would say, when it's hitting the receptor, maybe it's because of the way that it hits it versus the way that a regular opiate would hit it. It's more of a popcorn type of texture.
Well, and you know what? It's a really unusual substance in that it is. So it's an agonist and an antagonist, right? So it does both things at the same time, and then on top of that, you throw in, Narcan. It is really a strange formulation, and when you read about the bioavailability of the drug. So if you take an 8 milligram strip, you're not getting 8 milligrams anyway, right? So I think when you take really small doses, there's not enough. There's not enough of a blocking effect.
The naloxone ain't there. Yeah, I get you.
So you're taking a very, very small amount of the drug, but I think it ends up really sort of, I don't know, kind of wreaking havoc. I absolutely feel it more when I do less. When I take the normal dose, I don't feel anything.
Well, when you get down that low, I mean, I don't know, maybe it has something to do with something like a sleep deprivation type of thing too. I mean, because you can get euphoria off being tired.
You definitely can. I've been super blessed in that for the most part I've been sleeping pretty well. The exception to that would have been that this week the monsoons knocked power out. That night was not a real great night's sleep with no air conditioning, but and there's been a couple of other nights of some fairly severe weather. But I've been pretty blessed in as I am cycling down on this. It has not really messed with my sleep patterns. It hasn't really messed with much of anything. It's got me feeling better. I'm not doing it for any particular reason other than if I could get by on a smaller amount, then the threats at the pharmacy obviously are a little bit have less of an effect.
Well, I mean, I'm transparent with everybody too. I don't take what I'm prescribed.
Right. I don't think any of us do. I honestly don't think any of us do.
And this is the exact reason. I think I might have even talked about it here before. I know I talked to you about it. I take whatever my dose is. I've titrated down far enough to get to where I can save some of it in case there is these shortages, and maybe I have to push a little harder if we're not going to have the medication for an extended period of time to try to wean myself down so I don't go through all that crap. And I think that that's a smart thing for people to keep in mind when they're doing any kind of, rehabilitation at all.
I agree with you.
I mean, you gotta have the steps there already. Be forward thinking. Don't think about, hey, I got this medicine here, and I know it's hard because I fight that too. I'm sitting here right now, and I know where all my extra stuff is at. Right. But I'm in a position where, well, first off, I have a level of accountability. My wife.
That's a beautiful thing. Man.
It is.
That is a beautiful thing.
And I have that there, but it does still go through my mind probably once a day at least. And I don't know that it'll ever go away. That's fine. I can deal with that. It's not a big deal. I deal with that thought and I go away. And just try to stay busy, do the routine thing like we always talk about. Yeah. And and it does help. And I have noticed, though, as I keep moving forward with this, I do think about it less. And it's a slow process for us. It can't be that fast. I jumped from 8 milligrams once because they doubled our price at the clinic I was going to. And I lasted 8 days. And I know people are thinking, well, 8 days, after 3 days, you're done with. No, not with Suboxone, you're not.
You know what? It's such a unique substance, and the honestly, the way that people come off of this, I have heard as many stories as there are people.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's
kidding.
individualized. I would agree
It
with
is
that. Yeah.
so individualized. I watched a guy in prison, and whether it's psychosomatic or whether it's whatever, this guy's going through it. Like, I'm watching it. There's no, it's real in his head. Whether it's real, whether it's caused by whatever, he's going through it, and it was weeks. It was weeks. I didn't have the same experience when I started to come off of it, either when I did it really slowly or when I did it cold turkey. Both times it was just, I find that it is far less it's far less serious than the previous drug. Doesn't mean it's pleasant by any stretch of the imagination,
Right.
But it isn't like you just stop taking oxys or you stop taking heroin or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I went into the hospital for the first time for because
Kidney
rehab.
stones.
Well, no, rehab wouldn't take me because my insurance.
Yeah. You mean before, yeah.
And I remember still sitting up there on that psych ward in 2.5 days into withdrawals. And I vividly remember this because I felt myself starting to feel better.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then, then the call came in and said, hey, now because the alcohol thing was involved, they took me, right?
Yep.
And,
Genius.
and anybody in there that's ever been in a situation like that, I mean, even if you think you're going to be over it in like 10 hours, you're still going to get over there and get that. I mean, you're just not thinking right.
Yep.
And I wish, I don't say I wish, I wonder how I would have, if I just said no and just came on home, and did that kind of a thing. Because my physical withdrawals were starting to go away.
Right. You were at the tail end of it.
Yeah. And I'm kind of glad I didn't, but I always wonder, but because we have to take in consideration it's the mental thing.
Well, and it's one of those things that you will, like you said, you will always wonder. Here's from my point of view, because I'm in a rather unique position that I have gotten sober, and I shouldn't say sober. I have gotten chemical free many, many times in my life before I finally got sober, and I've done it that way, where you go through, you do the full kick, you're over it, and you're ready to move on. It's not the kick, man. It's what you do the second the kick is over, right?
Yeah.
If you put together some kind of a game plan, and this is when we talk to we have a lady on the boat now that is she has been dubbed like the official normie because she's never had a habit, but she digs being called a normie, which I think is awesome. But the for normies out there, it's kind of a completely different animal, because you try to explain to them why. No, I went through the sickness. In fact, I was sick for 9 days. Then I was sober for about 3 weeks, and then I started doing dope again. And they look at you like, "Why the hell would you start doing dope again?" Right? It makes no sense.
It doesn't, does it? It to the normie, okay?
Right, to the normie, it makes no sense. But you know something? I have found now, Mark, and I think that this is freaking fascinating. But because of some of the other shows that I've been fortunate to be a guest on, I find that it's a lack of connection, right? We can all agree that lack of connection is what causes, the opposite of addiction is connection, right? So a lack of connection really drives people to do these things. It also drives people into cults. It also drives people into relationships with people who are abusive. The desire to feel accepted and normal in your own skin makes us do things that are so counterintuitive to intelligent decision making.
Yeah, it's the addict's mind, and it's kind of what I've always called it, and it is different. It's 100% different. I mean, even the biology is even different.
And yeah, we know that now, right? We know that now for a fact. It can be tested. This is no longer theory. Yeah. We are completely different. The beautiful thing is, and I love using this word just because it gets me so many emails from people that go nuts. And I've learned to not care about those except to have a good time with it. But there is a cure. Did you hear that? There is a cure, right, for these problems, and it's called abstinence. If you never use that substance again, I promise you're cured. Right. Yep. You'll never have to worry about it again. And I am really getting to the belief that if you assemble a team and you get a decent tool, a little toolkit, a bag of tricks, and you develop it and you spend time on it, you're going to get through the worst of it.
Yeah.
You really are. You're going to get through the worst of it. But it's like anything else. If your planning is, well, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to stop drinking, I'll be fine, right? It's going to be about what, 7-8 days, and then that thing's over, and then I'm smooth sailing, right? It just doesn't work that way.
That's the thing, with any addiction. I think none of us are really going to do it unless it's just not there. It's just, you can't have it there, especially at the beginning anyway. This is why alcohol and things like that are so hard to kick, because they're everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's, I couldn't, I've never been a drinker. So, I never had to fight.
Thank God, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel for them too. Thank God. I'm so glad that they don't sell my drug on every street corner. Sasquatch Hunter, Alaska Adventure says, withdrawal sucks, but the fear of it sucks worse. Go through it and get off the stuff. It's so true. The fear of, I think the fear of withdrawal is one of the number one causes of death of all people who are trying to get clean. I talk to people every single day that, and that's all they can think about.
Yeah.
It's the overwhelming thought that in order for me to get my life back, I'm going to have to suffer massively, and it's going to be emotional, it's going to be spiritual, and it's going to be physical. And I'm here to tell you, in today's day and age, there are ways to really mitigate that suffering and get it down to where it is a whole lot easier on your body than it was back in the day. When it was 2 Advil, some Imodium AD, and a glass of Kool-Aid, and they'd say, "Best of luck. Hope that works out for you."
Don't make it red Kool-Aid, because they need to know if you're puking blood or not. I mean, that's just what it is.
Correct. Yeah.
Definitely
didn't want to make it red. It was a scary time. Right now, there are benzo protocols for everything. There are benzo protocols for opiate addiction. In fact, the way that they are really leaning right now, when someone goes in and needs to detox off of opiates, they will knock you unconscious with benzos. I mean, unconscious. They will come in, wake you up, walk you to the bathroom, right? Get you to drink a little something, hand you 2 more pills, and put you back to bed. And I've done it. I've been through that spin dry, and it's like for the first 5 or 6 days, they keep you like that, where you're basically in a drug-induced coma, and they just let you wake up so you can go to the bathroom, and then put you back down into it. And it is a lot more pleasant than the Imodium AD Tylenol method.
Oh yeah,
I assure you, it's
the whole rapid detox thing, and that's, again, it's individualized. I'm sure it works for some people. I really am, but I don't know that I could do that. It
didn't work for me.
Right. That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying.
I tried that.
I would like to see.
I tried it.
I don't know the stats on it myself. So, I mean, and that's the thing. I would the problem, say that people get back to using really quick after that.
The problem with statistics, on anybody that's helping people get sober is you just have to take their word for it, because they're not going to open up the books and say, "Hey, check it out, Mark Wages. Yeah, that junkie, I helped him get sober." You know what I mean? Like, that's their biggest fear of HEPA and everybody else, is that you're by proving what your statistics are, you're going to be really opening the door and letting a lot of information about a lot of people out. So it's just really not very reliable. You hear places like Passages Malibu, and their success rate's 105%, right? And we can teach you how you can drink again. I mean, some of the promises out there, but as you well know, Mark, because we've discussed it on the Lifeboat before, 85% of all statistics are made up on the spot.
Yep. Yeah. And the thing is, what else do we have to look at? That's why everything does have to boil down to individual things, because you just got to attack it like that. I mean, you can look at the numbers or what. The stats that are probably closer to correct would be like overdose deaths and stuff like that. It's not somebody getting clean and staying clean for a period of time, because that could be lied through, right? That kind of thing. But interesting too. I mean, how long do you follow somebody before you say that that the system worked? Are we talking 120 days? Are we talking a year out? Are we talking 2 years out? Well, what is it for a cancer patient? 5 years, right?
Right. Yeah, 5 years. Donnie says, I drank a 12-pack a day for 7 years and just stopped 3.5 years ago. I didn't have withdrawal, which is great. I was watching a Browns game and my heart started racing, and that scared me. Donnie, way to listen to your heart, man. Seriously, Good for you. So many people, having just had this thing that happened with my heart the other day, the number of people who reached out to me and said, "Oh, you know what, man? I think I went through the same thing. I remember this time where I think I had a heart attack." And I was like, holy crap, man. I mean, there must have been a dozen people that reached out to me and said that. And I thought to myself, if you start feeling like you're having a heart attack, perhaps you ought to go to a hospital, right?
Right.
Please, people, don't well, do what Donnie did. Listen to your heart. If something bad's happening, man, take that stuff seriously, because it's frightening stuff. Especially watching the Browns. There's nothing, no excitement there. It says 7-7.
Well,
I honestly was waiting to hear who was going to toss out the first Browns job.
I could have tossed it out too, just like that.
Yeah.
You either love them or you hate them. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yes.
Cowboys.
Oh man, you know what? It's amazing. It's amazing that it's probably because I sort of backed away from football and I don't really watch it anymore, which is a bonus, because had you and I met, say, 7 or 8 years earlier, I would have been like, I'm sorry, you follow who? Because that, as a former Giants fan, we never would have been able to work that out. You know what I mean? Especially with all of that America's team crap. Nobody buys that.
I can't even like baseball. I can't watch baseball anymore.
Uh-oh.
All those new rules.
John Doe said the R word. Do we cancel him for that, or how does that work?
John Doe.
I'm new to the whole cancel thing. I'm trying to learn, because he said Redskins. I don't think you can say that.
Oh,
can you?
Yeah, that gets you
I'm
canceled.
calling him the Redskins for the rest of eternity. I don't care. You know what I mean? Cancel me. Sorry. You
can get canceled for anything nowadays.
It's true.
It takes 15 seconds.
I'm liable to be 15 seconds. I'll do it. Well, the new one's actually 3. The new one is actually 3. I'll let you listen to that one sometime. I was offensive enough to say that Pride Month basically covers a lot of the stuff that these two people were doing back in the 40s, which would be frowned on today. And boy, you would have thought that. Boy, I really said something. Sasquatch Hunter says, I'm a Washington fan. Well, you know what? I would have hated you too. Being a Giants fan, I would not be able to. As a Giants fan, I really hated every other team except probably the exception to that would be New Orleans. I really did like. I was always a New Orleans fan.
Really?
Wow. Buddha Davis says, I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, Mark. So there you go.
Sorry about that. Because that's 4 Super Bowls in a row.
That's correct. That is correct. There were 4 Super Bowls in a row that they did not win, and that's not easy to do.
It's not easy to get back one time, let alone do it 4 times and lose all 4 times.
Well, and keep that real. You do it 4 times in a row, you should win one by accident.
Yeah.
Right? The law of averages says that you should be able to pull at least one of them out. And what was the old joke? How many Buffalo Bills does it take to change a tire?
Yeah.
Just 2? Unless, of course, it's in the Super Bowl, and that would be a blowout. You'd have to take the whole team. Sorry.
That's awesome. Awesome, man.
Yeah, right? I think the key is that you should follow the Raiders, and then you could basically tour the United States.
That's a good point.
Think of all the cool cities you get to root for.
Oakland, Los Angeles, Vegas. I mean, all of them, man.
LA, and then and now they're a Vegas franchise. And apparently Vegas is hot to trot to get a baseball team as well, and maybe even expanding into some other sports. Now they're really fired up about having their own team.
Oh yeah,
but I would imagine it's going to be a great town for a great town to watch sports in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Can you throw a bet in the stadium? That's the one I want to know. Can you go down? When you get your beer, can you say, and I want to parlay on the second half? Give me the Raiders in the under. I don't know.
There's probably some NFL rule preventing that.
I'll bet you money. I thought honestly, there has to be something
legal in Vegas. The NFL ain't gonna allow that. I guarantee you, that's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, like Pete Rose back in the day. Same thing.
Yeah,
that dude was crazy. But there's a lot of drugs in sports too, and you know, I'll see how they. It looks like they're kind of fixing it though. I mean, it's something I've noticed anyway. But maybe I'm just being blind to it all. Who knows? Who knows?
Shirley Phil says, I think they actually found their home in Vegas, and that could be the case. By the way, Donnie also stopped smoking cigarettes 8 months ago. He says smoking is so much harder to me stopping than drinking ever was. Cleveland Indians always to me. All right, Donnie, you know what? One of the reasons that cigarette smoking is so difficult is because of just how efficient the delivery system of the drug is. Smoking gets chemicals into your body so damn fast, and cigarette smoking, nicotine, and in general, it doubles whatever the baseline level of dopamine in your body is. So it's baseline times 2, and it's super up quick and super back down quick. So it's one of those things that it was designed to be the most addicting thing in the world. CW Terry, good to see you, bud. My uncle used to say, if you knew the right people in Vegas, you'd know the outcome before any season started. You know what? I've heard other people say things that were similar. I'd be, I don't know the answer to that. I think there was probably a time when things were pretty ugly. Ray Lewis III. Are there 3 of them?
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Some of the boxer?
The guy that played for no, he was a
I know you're
inside linebacker. Played for I think he was an inside linebacker. He might have been a down lineman, but he played for that team.
That team, man. That
Minnesota? One. No, not Minnesota. Yeah, maybe it was Minnesota.
Ray Lewis, was it Carolina?
See, this is what happens when you quit smoking. I mean, quit watching. Missed a 32-yard field goal against the Giants in one of those Super Bowls. And the Cocaine Cowboys had a little edge, says Buddha Davis. That 32-yard field goal you are referring to, that wouldn't have been Scott Norwood, would it? Do you know that my brother Johnny actually gave me a what looked like a credit card, and it was a picture taken from behind, and you could read Norwood on the back of his jersey, and his foot's all the way up in the air like he's following through, and you can see from where the ball is that there's no way this is going through. And I got it as a Christmas gift back when I watched it. My brother said, you just got to pull this out when you're having bad days. Right? And then you just look at it and you remember good old Scotty Norwood. Oh, man. Tough day to be a kicker.
Or you could go the Ace Ventura route. Laces out. Laces
out. What I love sports nut, eh?
Yeah.
That woman who played, hey, Nick, good to see you in person. Nick just had a birthday. Happy birthday, Nick.
Good to see you, CW. Glad I'm here, man. Good to see you, bud.
Muhammad Ali, y'all. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. I met Muhammad Ali. I met him on more than one occasion. Spent time with Muhammad Ali. We did a deal together years ago. My brother Johnny met him as well. Very interesting person. I quit smoking cigarettes 6 years ago. I have vaped ever since. I am waiting for a third ear to grow out of my forehead or something that vapes cost long term. I'm hoping it's not an ear growing out of the forehead, because let's just say there are 15 seconds out there that may suggest I have vaped at one time.
Sure.
It's a 15-second clip. It was either that or I was freebasing fish tranquilizer.
Something.
I don't know. It was one of those days.
Who knows?
Right.
I'll tell you.
Certainly we don't.
This crappy dancer on this shit. It's crazy.
Been a wild 2 years.
This is what we do now, though. We laugh. I mean, what else you do? You got to laugh at it.
Yeah.
I mean.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's become a lot of fun. I wanted to make an announcement. You're gonna love this, Mark.
Go for it, brother.
This is Mark inspired, not Mark inspires, but Mark inspired. My partner. One of the things that we talked about an awful lot back in the early days was, Wages World, the difference in audience between male and female is minuscule. It's pretty close to a 50-50 split, which is kind of unheard of in YouTube. That is a very male dominated audience. But our new numbers just came out last night. You know, they do that weekly update thing. And
Yeah.
and we have finally attained 50-50 status. And it wasn't even a
That's
point off. It was literally 50-50. And on the lifetime, that was for the last like 3 or 4 months in a row. But lifetime, we are at 42% female, which is, I remember, and Mark could tell you, back in the really early days, I think we were at like 95% male.
Yeah. We didn't have a whole lot of women over here, but
We really did not. We started out very, very guy. In fact, I remember when Miss V showed up, I think we were all like, wait a sec, Miss? The hell is this?
Yeah. Well, I think the female gender is more apt to live streaming. They want to have that, and I'm not trying to stereotype. This is something I've noticed.
No, I think there's something to that.
Yeah. So, I run the science channel. Who has a 50-50 split on a science channel? You're not going to find nobody.
No, that's impressive stuff. And as we've talked about before, a few people have never gone over and checked out Wages World. Shame on you. But you should get over there and check it out. Mark Mark talks about really, really heady stuff. You know what I mean? Like stuff that I was very, very intimidated on prior to his channel. But he makes it so simple that a Scoville can understand it. Hold on, James R has a question. Go ahead, Mark.
I do try to bring it down to a level everybody can understand. I mean, I'm not educated on it other than self-educated. That's it. I think it goes, even the drug situation and all that. Somebody's always going to help you if you know where to look. And it's, you get educated on that stuff and you move forward. But like on the science thing, man, I didn't know nothing about it. I mean, I knew the sun was a big glowing ball in the sky. Yeah, it shoots solar flares once in a while. But what is that stuff? I had no clue.
Well, you've come a long way, brother. Okay, we have a question from James R. And if you people notice how James R framed this is how you get a question answered, right? Right question at the beginning of it. We'll know that this was not just you talking to people. So it says, question, I was asked this earlier. The person had been off for 4 months, relapsed, and the first time back woke up after Narcan, and then into full withdrawals in the ambulance. I couldn't explain why. Can you? I can. When we do opiates, it's going to take about 3 days, right? Minimum 72 hours for that to all go out of our system, and it goes out at a very slow rate. And what's literally happening is our body is detoxifying us. It is allowing us to keep this stuff in our body long enough to help us with pain, but it is going to bleed it out at such a controlled rate that we don't even notice it. So Narcan is given to a person after a big shot, right? And those 3 days are gone. So you went from having a crap load of this stuff into your system to having nothing. And it happened that fast. So after they're Narcaned, and I've seen this before on somebody that had been clean for a really long time and then OD'd on the first shot, they will absolutely go into full-blown withdrawal.
Yeah, it's because it's knocking all those off the receptor at once.
It knocked off everything. Mark's right. Yeah. It swept everything off of the receptor. And I know that it's almost counterintuitive, because you would think to yourself, well, he's just going back to the baseline. The baseline got swept away when he put dope into his body. His body now went, cool, we're back on the bandwagon.
Exactly.
Right? And then that switch gets thrown and that gets yanked out from underneath. And your body says, oh, I'm going to make you hurt for this.
Yep.
Right. You're going to put that back in here right now, or I am going to make you miserable. And that is, in fact, exactly what the body.
And that's why the old, what most addicts try to do once or twice is, I'll just do it every once in a while. That's why that doesn't work.
Correct. Yeah, that chipping thing's never going to work. Right?
Nope.
We burned that bridge a long time ago. Now we are people who are addicted to this stuff. It's full time. But that is why they went back into full blown withdrawal.
It is interesting to see what we talked about way back in the day, and for it to really, to go back and talk about it again, like the stuff that we were saying back then. I mean, me and you both were very confident in what we were saying, and for it to actually get proven out in a lot of ways is here's the thing. For me, it's gratifying, but it's also, I wish I would.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I remember the first time we started to really talk about the crisis with fent, and we started to, and then we started to do some research on the nitazines and on some of the other stuff that we went down some deep rabbit holes, and some of it was just, the stuff that makes you go, this can't be real, and it's almost downright, creepy. But when we started talking, remember it was 180 people. We're losing 180 people a day, and then we would say, and we don't believe that number. Right. That's what the CDC is telling us. And we don't believe that number. And I remember one of the, we would hang out after the shows and we were talking. The show was over and Mark goes, boy, you ever make a prediction and just hope you're damn wrong? But sadly, we have been spot on most of them. I guess we've been kind of ahead of the curve on most of them. And I think it's because the journalists who are going out that do want to report about this don't really have a good base. Right. They need someone that's actually kind of been in the life.
Right.
Maybe go out and do a report with them.
They don't necessarily know what questions to ask.
Correct.
I think it's a lot of what goes on. Of course, you got people like Vice and things like that go really, really deep. And anybody that's in early recovery, please don't go watch that.
What a good piece of advice. I hope everybody heard that.
It's just not a good thing to watch when you're in early recovery at all.
No, there are so many triggers on that channel. And you know what? I love Vice. I'm not backing out from the channel. Love it. I think they do great stuff. But it is trigger central. They're gonna show needles breaking through skin. They're gonna show things that are really gonna make you go back in your head.
Well, it's like Kensington, the same thing I would say to that too, because all it does is remind you. And you were talking about the stuff getting wiped off the receptor and on one dose after they came back from being in recovery for a period of time. There's actually a video out there, and I think I might have showed it to you. But the guy,
we lost you. If you can hear me, we lost your sound. All right, so we'll see if we can get him back here in a second, everybody. There we go. Do we get it? There you are. You're back. Okay, you talked about a video you sent me. We lost you right there. Yeah, I can hear you.
Guys, can you hear me? Somebody give me a 5 for 5 if you can hear me.
I think we might be all right because I most assuredly can hear you. And we're still showing live on my counter.
Testing, testing. Somebody tell me if they can hear me. If you can't.
We have a 5. We have 5x5s all over the place.
All right,
excellent. So you were saying there was a video.
Yeah.
That's right where I lost you.
No, okay. Yeah, there was a video and somebody had done just that. They were not they hadn't been in the life for a minute, but went back down there, thought they could do it one time, and they overdosed, right? So they're trying to wake this guy up, hitting him with Narcan. He gets up, and people have to understand that stuff's still in your system. All it did was knock what was ever on the receptor off. Right. He overdosed again.
Yeah.
Twice.
That's fent. And this is something that people need to realize. This is something that never came into effect in our lifetime, right? Yeah. So if you did heroin and they gave you Narcan, right, and naloxone, and it knocked it off the receptors, that was the end of the conversation.
Right.
There was nothing else to discuss. But the strength of fentanyl is such that when it knocks it off of the receptors, it's going to continue to knock those receptors clear as it goes around the bloodstream for 45 minutes. Now, with most opiates, that was enough. You were good. You were sick until the morning, and then you tried to get well again. But with fent, you can get right, and on the way home in the car, go back out. Yeah. So they're talking about holding people in hospitals now, basically to monitor them. And sometimes over the course of a night, they may have to give them Narcan 4 times.
That's a good idea.
Terrifying, right?
Terrifying.
Keeping them in the hospital.
Yeah. I mean, that's like we said before, you can't fix somebody if they're dead.
Photographer looking good in green. It says, "Welcome to Ensign. I'm glad you're here, my brother. Thank you so much." S. Coop, good to see you. Having a heck of a time.
Good to see everybody in chat, guys.
Let's see what S. Coop said. She said she's having a heck of a time with YouTube trying to get on here. Keeps crashing my PC. Oh,
You've been buffering once in a while, Tommy, too. I don't know
yeah, I know it hasn't been it has not
been horrible.
Fantastic. No, I'm seeing it on my end too. Which is kind of unfortunate. And we just lost Wages too, which is also a nickname for the team we were just talking about in Nevada, right? Lost Wages. That's where the Raiders play. All right, people. That may have been us losing Mark, which you hate to see happen. But you know what? I'm loving these Wednesdays with Wages. It really is a good time, people. It's fun to get back together. It's fun to reminisce. And Mark and I just have a ball on camera. Oh, look. We got Squirrel's doing the power clean. No, she's doing the I kick myself in the head dance. All righty, peeps. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to call it a day, and we will see you next Wednesday on the Lifeboat. There is Wages. He says, internet went out. I had a feeling it did, Mark. Mark, thank you so much. It is always a pleasure, people. I will be back. This actually works out because I'm late for an appointment. I told the people I would come right after the Lifeboat, so this is actually going to get me there almost on time. All right, everyone. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. That was on the other side of the glass, Captain Mark Wages, and this right here, this is a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. We love you. To all the new people, we're so glad you're here. God bless. Lean on one another, right? Between now and the next time we see each other, reach out and try to save somebody. Good night.